welcome to our official stamp cancellation for the town of Bridgewater. And, glad to see everybody's here.
I just like, well, first of all, thank you everyone for coming out to this on our birthday, 125 years. It's something quite special for the town. And I wanna thank the South Shore Stamp Club for this the stamp cancellation, right? Is that the pictorial stamp cancellation?
Yes.
I have in my pocket the last one that I keep in my office at Town Hall from 2017, where we had the one for Bijanuiska Park, which also has the nice stamp on it for the park. So I have a couple of these that are on display, so whenever I'm meeting with developers or business people interested in coming to our town to start a new business, this is one of the things they see. And so to mark our 125th birthday with another, I find these, obviously they're unique, but they're also very special. I think it's very fitting. So thank you all for putting this together and for being here today.
Anyways, thank you everybody for coming for our Bridgewater 125. And the Philatelic Society has asked us to produce a cancellation commemorating this event, so which we have done, and it's turned out with very positive reviews. And Canada Post is really pleased to be involved with supporting Philatelic Society and Bridgewater. So of course, it's just been a great time. So the cancel is officially released as of right now, and please take part in some of the festivities. We have coffee, tea, donuts, anything you folks like. So thank you very much.
Thank you for all your effort.
Yeah.
Thanks, folks.
I'm Amanda Fancy. I'm the dealer owner of Gauss Home Hardware and Furniture. We've been at this location for about a year. We started in 1848, way back when. This is our 5th location, so we've never have left the town limits. So when we're looking to build this location, we had lots of opportunity to potentially look at outside of the town limits, but it was really key for us to be and continue to be a growing business in Bridgewater. Bridgewater, Nova Scotia is unique. We have a beautiful countryside. Our town is 7,500 people, but then, our customer reach is about 45,000. So, we're talking about lots of small communities, hidden treasures. There's huge opportunity here, and I think that it's certainly worthwhile to make the visit, make the call, do some inquiring, because it certainly is somewhere where I think there would be some strong investment opportunities for sure.
My name is Joey Richard. I come from Quebec, Montreal. I've studied opera at the Montreal Conservatoire of Music, so this is where I've learned about Italian, the language, and the food. And my passion just became bigger and bigger for food. I've been cooking for 20 years, almost. I opened a family business, but the only thing I forgot is that my family is still in Montreal, so I'm like, I make new friends, I'm building this thing, but it is a family business here. My chef is like my brother, his wife is like my sister, so I recreated a family environment. We do the real recipes, starting from the real ingredients, and for Italian food, what the secret is, few ingredients and very fresh. So each recipe would be like 3-4 ingredients maximum. But it's just the best ingredients and makes it so delicious. If you think that it's impossible to have your own business, I'm the living proof that it is possible. People want us to thrive. We work together. So everybody helps each other. If you want to be part of a community, it is the community to be part of.
My name is Joel Holland. I'm the owner and operator of Manitou Athletics. I found the opportunity, started this gym in my parents' garage, and now we are currently in an 8,600 square foot facility. A lot of people come here because of the community. The things that we offer here are different than a normal gym. It's an open atmosphere where you come in, the music's played over the loudspeakers, not in your ears. You don't put earbuds in and just walk around from one machine to the other. You focus on yourself, but at the same time you get to meet new people. We have 3 floors, which we do CrossFit, boot camps, athletic training, and personal training. We have so many other businesses that are growing our economy and feeding into it becoming more popular.
All right, good evening, everyone, and welcome you all to this regularly scheduled meeting of Bridgewater Town Council. And we'll call the meeting to order. The agenda has been circulated. We'll just note that 7.4, which is community greenhouse gas targets, we're going to move that from the agenda. That'll be at the next, I'm assuming
September 20th.
At the next meeting. So with that, can I have a motion to approve the agenda as amended?
So moved.
Deputy Mayor Fisher, Councillor Tanner, all those in favor? Those opposed? Motion is carried. Thank you. And we will go down to, we're having presentations, right?
No.
Because the Donna's big thing is under announcements. I feel like it should be under presentations because it's big, but
just before we get to that, I want to note the town of Bridgewater is located in Mi'kma'ki, the unceded ancestral territory of the Mi'kmaq people, and as always, it is our privilege to be here. The week of September 23rd to 29th is Right to Know Week, and the proclamation will be on the town's website and Facebook page. So that's dealing with transparency and access to information. And so that proclamation will be in full there. And are there any other announcements from council? Councilor Conklin?
Your Honor. Yeah, so this Sunday on the 15th of the month, 3 p.m. at the LCLC, the South Shore Mustangs will begin their 40th season. Home opener Sunday afternoon.
Wow, that's quite a milestone. Excellent. Any other announcements? Councilor Thorburn?
Yes, I did attend the Lunenburg Fishers Memorial Service again this year, and it's a soft spot for me because my family all fished. But anyway, this service is actually dedicated in memory of those who have gone to sea and haven't returned, and the men and women that continue to go to sea. And the year they celebrated this year was a year ending in 4. And there was 29 deaths. In 1934, there was 20. It was a bad February month with big storms. 54 had 2, 64 2, 84 2, 91 1, 2004 1, and 2014 1. And that is a charitable organization that's run that monument, and it runs on donations. So if you want to give a donation to a good cause, please contact that service. Thank you very much.
Thank you, Councilor Thorburn. Yes, I think you've attended every year.
Yeah.
Certainly for the last 8 years, I think you've attended on council's behalf. So appreciate that. Thank you. We haven't had a council meeting for a little while because of the 2 weeks we had off. I should do air quotes for the summer. But just a few weeks ago, we had a monumental funding announcement in the town of Bridgewater, with both the federal government and provincial government coming to the table with in excess of $20 million each for infrastructure funding. So on the province's side, that is the largest wastewater infrastructure funding announcement in history outside of HRM. So that is a lot of work by a lot of staff and council, like a lot of work. Like staff, I cannot say enough about the amount of work. It's not just filling out a grant application, it's doing it multiple times and explaining it to various organizations within various orders of government, advocating on our citizens' behalf. So to Tammy and your senior management team, and to all the staff that put in that effort, thank you. And to council, it's, that some of those went back to the previous council, and so we've, recognizing that we're in the end of year 4 for this council. It's 4 solid years for this council to be advocating for this community for wastewater funding. But we did it, and it's it's still a long road ahead, but thank you to everyone who made that happen, and to to the province and the federal government for stepping up with recognizing the importance of Bridgewater that Bridgewater plays to the region and the infrastructure that we need to support that. So that was amazing to be there, and it was amazing to somewhat emotional to receive that kind of funding and confidence from 2 orders of government. So that was great. And now, before we move on, we'll turn it over to Donna Hatt, who's going to run through a whole bunch of exciting things happening as part of Bridgewater 125.
Exactly. Good evening, Mayor and Council. It's terrific to be here with you today. We didn't want to lose the opportunity to acknowledge that throughout 2024, we've been celebrating and honoring our 125th anniversary here in Bridgewater, and there's been an incredible collection of events, commemorative components, as well as anniversary-related activities throughout the year, but we're not done. As we begin to welcome fall, you might have thought all the fun was coming to an end and we didn't have any more in the tank, but guess what? We sure do. So I just wanted to quickly run through a collection of the events that are taking place that we are aware of. Some of them we're directly involved with. Others have been embraced by businesses in our community and community organizations who are jumping on board and have a whole variety of things happening. So up on your slide, your screens right now, you'll see that we're going to be having the unveiling of Bridgewater 125 public art installation on September 20th. This project is proudly presented by South Shore Center. That is our mall that sits there on the edge of the LaHave River and directly across from Bigelowaska Park. And Lisa and her team embraced the concept of creating a 60-foot mural, 8 feet high, that letter by letter we're building Bridgewater together and creating a unique experience. So hands down, you'll see the number of sponsors and partners that have been participating. Each of them have adopted a letter. Bridgewater, the B in Bridgewater, has been adopted by us, the town of Bridgewater. And in fact, tomorrow you're all invited between 12 and 12:45 to lay your own handprint on the letter B to join us in creating our visual work of art that will add to the collection. So big hats off to South Shore Center for creating this initiative and enabling it to happen. The unveiling, as you can see in the visual, directly across from Bigelowaska Park, 60 feet long, will be a new art installation that will be a legacy of our 125th anniversary that was made possible with the variety of businesses that we've identified there. So get ready, September 20th in the evening, the big unveiling will take place and it will remain in place. Oh my goodness, we're jumping. Slow the time down, we don't want September to end so swiftly. All of you will quite likely be aware that we have the Harvest Moon Music Festival, and this is something that certainly Patrick Hurdle, our communications manager, has been very much involved with and helping to curate. And it's back, I believe this is our 3rd year? Yes, for the 3rd year. So as you can see from the listings there, it's partly presented by Arby's with support from a number of organizations, including the federal government. But opening night, Ian Sherwood is performing on the waterfront. These are free concerts. So we have Ian Sherwood on Friday night as a headliner with some backup bands that are kicking off the evening. On Saturday, the Town Heroes will be the headliners with a variety of other bands leading up to that. And of course, it's fireworks that evening at 8:30 p.m. So the community will be coming in. We've also have events taking place. The motorcycle show and shine is happening as well in the parkade earlier that day. So lots of festivities, all complimentary to the community, and businesses are rallying around all of that, and it's going to be a spectacular gathering. But the fun doesn't stop. Right in around the same weekend, this is September 20th and 21st. That's the Harvest Moon Music Festival. We've added a couple of extra events around that as part of our Bridgewater 125 collection of activities. We've got Ride the LaHave River, which is a cycling event departing at the Centennial Trail entrance off of LaHave Street, and we will ride to Cookville Provincial Park and back again. This is being proudly presented in partnership with us, but by Cycling Nova Scotia. They've not hosted an event like this in our community, and they're thrilled to be here as a part of that. And they will be supported by Sweet Ride Cycling out of Mahone Bay. So we've got so many folks that want to be a part of supporting our anniversary activities. And then on the Sunday, we're hosting, and it's been a long time since we've seen a paddling event on the river. So September 22nd, we will be hosting Bigelowaska Parade of Paddlers. The goal is 125 paddlers on the river, starting from Shipyards Landing and then continuing up through town, under the new bridge, up to the under the old bridge, up to the new bridge and back again. It's about 2 kilometers. We're gonna give or take about 90 minutes for that, but it's being presented by Canoe and Kayak Nova Scotia, who has never done an event here on our river previously. They're being supported by Cape LaHave Adventures, another organization, business outside of town, but excited to be a part of this. So far, reports just came in this morning. We currently have 70 people registered, so we're well underway for a goal of 125. It will be led by Elder Todd Labrador and his daughter Melissa in a birch bark canoe that he has built. He'll also be supported in another birch bark canoe by Parks Canada. And then we have 3 big canoes coming in. Those are our 10-person canoes. 2 of them are being presented by the Multicultural Association, enabling folks that may have never had the chance to canoe before to get out there. So kayaks, canoes, stand-up paddleboards, and I'm looking at all of you, and I'm watching and thinking about everybody that might be listening at home or watching in. This is free for everyone to join us. The details are available online, and you must pre-register because we're going to meet all of the security and insurance requirements to ensure everyone is safe throughout the experience. So that should be a pretty spectacular event to be a part of, but also to see from anywhere along shoreline. So it's quite lovely. And the fun continues. That weekend of September 20th to 21st is actually packed with a whole bunch of other activities and surrounding. Now, all of these may not be necessarily because it's our 125th, but my goodness, We've got a lot happening. So you can see that we have Music on the Riverbank, which is one of our programs that continues on September 10th and 17th at Bejunowaska Park. Ferguson Brewery, check this out. We've got J.P. Cormier coming in, Ashley McIsaac, and Rich O'Coin. They are all award-winning performers coming to Bridgewater and performing at a Ferkenstein. So you know those tunes will be wafting out in and around the community, but it certainly adds another element of shocking, amazing talent coming to Bridgewater for our community. South Shore Players on September 20th, opening season for them in their new theater in the former Bridgewater Memorial Arena upstairs. So this is our chance to get in. They'll be staging that first performance on the 20th. It runs for multiple nights starting that time. So I invite everyone to learn and bookend that in for themselves as well. The Bridgewater's Farmers Market, oh my goodness, is doing a night market on September 20th. You're going to wish there was more than one of you in order to cut yourself up to get to all of the things happening on September 20th. So divide and conquer because you're going to have a blast. So the night market's happening for the farmers market, and then the next day, Saturday morning, they'll be up bright and early going at it again with their weekly Saturday morning market that runs straight through till December. We've got the Memorial Truck Show happening in town on the 21st, and then the ARC is hosting their 60th anniversary event at the end of the month on September 28th, the Lantern Festival, which I know you'll be talking about a little bit later today. Coming up in October, we would be remiss if we didn't take this opportunity to be able to acknowledge probably might be one of the most meaningful opportunities for us in our 125th anniversary, is to be able to welcome Elder Todd Labrador to the Des Brisets Museum, where he will build a birch bark canoe throughout the month of October for the public to be participating in, from talking, learning, and seeing it come to life. And at the completion of the birch bark canoe, we'll host a launching celebration on the Lehave. So it'll come full circle, it'll start from scratch, you'll see it come to life, and then it will be launched. So we'll be documenting the process. We're looking forward to seeing many children from the school programs as well as the childcare facilities, etc., but also those in seniors' homes. Todd's really looking forward to learning about maybe some stories from his grandparents about them and their interchanges through the years, or exchanges throughout the year as things unfolded. So lots going on, and that's just in September with tipping into October. So I hope you've got some beauty sleep going, because you're going to need a chance to really kick out and have some fun along the way. Of course, if you want to see what else is taking place, because there's more, explore bridgewater.ca/events. And of course, anyone that has events taking place in our community, you're invited to submit them there free of charge. We'll continue to use that and build the events calendars so that our business community, as well as our residents, can know what's going on and be a part of the community. Okay?
That's great. Any questions? That's a lot. A lot going on.
Get some sleep.
Councillor Conklin.
Excuse me. So for the paddle/kayak event,
Yes.
will the old bridge be closed for any of that? No? Okay.
No, we're on the water.
Yeah, I know, but I'm just thinking for the pedestrians. Good one. Touche. No, I'm just thinking like for the public to...
Yeah. Well, there's lots of viewplane opportunities,
Yeah.
right? So we'll be departing from Shipyards Landing, and while it'll be a lovely visual to see that happening, it really will be beautiful to see it from Bejunowaska Park. And remember, we now have the big mural that will be in place along the edge of the mall. So for viewing opportunities, we do have the sidewalks along the old bridge so that people can see it going both ways. And then, of course, as you come up, you've got King Street Court as another location to see it coming through. You also have the mall side of the river. There is, don't forget, we have the Riverside Walk that you can locate yourself in all of those areas. So there should be plenty of opportunities for folks. I hope that we're stuck to the gills and people are shoulder to shoulder watching, but more importantly that at least we've achieved 125 people on in canoes, kayaks, and on stand-up paddle boards, all participating in the event.
That's great.
Thanks.
Councillor Tanner.
And everyone is welcome,
Everyone is welcome.
including puppies.
Yes.
Right?
As long as your puppies meet the requirements of wearing their PFDs, etc., and keeping them safe, yes. All paws on deck.
This whole meeting is going to be related to
About puppies, new
puppies.
puppies in people's lives.
And the people are going to wonder what we're talking about. So, 2 councillors around the table just got brand new puppies. So, No, the camera's not going to pan, so you can
Pictures.
please see Councillor Caldwell and Councillor Tanner after if you want to talk about their puppies and see their adorable pictures.
So terrific.
Great.
Thanks.
Thank you, Donna. Okay. This is the next part is delegations. I don't know if there's any members of the public that wish to address council on any topics. Just look at you because you're the only member of the public here. So, and we are down to 7.1, which is the amendment for policy 112, closure of certain public streets for Logan Road. Mr. Brown.
Good evening, Mayor and Council. So staff recommend that Council approve the policy revision with respect to policy 112, closure of certain public streets. And this is associated with the Part 2 closure of Logan Road. So in March 2023, Council passed a motion to approve the requested two-phased partial closure of Logan Road and policy 112 with respect to the closure of certain public streets. Part 1 Logan Road was subsequently closed and conveyed to Michelin North America to facilitate their current building expansion. However, to facilitate the Part 2 closure, an additional parcel, so-called Lot 1, was identified as not previously considered in the street closure resulting policy. Part 2 Logan Road closure is nearing the point of completion, and it is Phase 2, or Part 2, that must include Lot 1 to represent the full closure of this next portion of Logan Road as requested. Thus, the recommended policy revision with respect to policy 112 includes now a description of Lot 1.
Questions of Nick? Is someone prepared to make a motion? Councillor Thorburn, thank you.
I would move that Town Council for the Town of Bridgewater approve the amendments to policy 112, closure of certain public streets, Logan Road, Lot 1, as presented in document number 24-017D, with respect to the inclusion of Lot 1 PID 60383585 to facilitate the full closure of Logan Road to St. Philip Street.
Thank you. Seconded by Councillor Conklin. Further discussion?
Question.
Question being called. All those in favor? Those opposed? Motion is carried. Thank you. Down to 7.2, amendment to policy 67, sanitary sewer services extension to 54 Riverview Drive.
Okay, thank you. So with respect to policy 67, staff recommend that council approve the request for the provision of sanitary sewer services to outside of the town boundary, but within the property at 54 Riverview Drive, and direct staff to execute the sanitary sewer services policy Schedule B agreement as revised. So the property owner at 54 Riverview Drive intends to build a backyard unit, being part of an accessory structure with a single unit on their land, and that would be secondary to the currently authorized single unit dwelling, but on a portion of land that's outside of the town boundary. So policy 67, the sanitary sewer services policy, states that the provision of sanitary sewer services outside town boundaries shall not be permitted save for the circumstances as outlined in the policy, such as for properties which straddle the town boundary. Section 3 of the policy states that if the town decides to provide sanitary sewer services to a given property, same shall be provided by way of an agreement. The policy revision associated with this request comes in the form of an updated Schedule B agreement. The change is represented in Section 2 of the agreement, providing for more general wording and flexibility to charge based on the sewer rate as established by council at the time of agreement. The existing reads, the owner undertakes and agrees to pay to the town an annual sewer charge in the amount representing 42 cents of $100 of assessed value. And the proposed reads, the owner undertakes and agrees to pay to the town a sewer charge in the amount representing the town's sewer rate and the wastewater betterment charge as established by town council at the date of the agreement. So council will note the applicable to today sewer rate referenced as well as the wastewater betterment charge. Today's sewer rate would equal $673 per year, and the wastewater betterment charge would equal $1,500, and that's a one-time charge. The inclusion of the wastewater betterment charge within the policy and Schedule B agreement is proposed so that the town can continue, per the wastewater betterment charge bylaw, to collect the money purposed to offset the cost to the town of reducing combined and sanitary sewer overflows that are attributed to new development. Since the new build would be in the municipality of the District of Lunenburg, there will be no permit application for the town to apply the charge. So again, the new sewer rate would be charged on an annual basis. The wastewater betterment charge would be paid at the time of connection. Thank you.
Any questions? Mr. Brown? Kind of like this, we're kind of working together, right? Units outside of town, but we need housing in the region, so we're kind of working with Modal in this case, I think, so that's good. Someone prepared to put a motion on the floor? Councillor Tanner, thank you.
I move the Town Council for the Town of Bridgewater approve the amendments to Policy 67 Sanitary Sewer Services as presented in document 24-134A with respect to the provision of sanitary services to 54 Riverview Drive, property located outside of town boundaries, and direct staff to execute the sanitary services policy Schedule B agreement, with the owner of said property.
Thank you. It's seconded by Councillor Caldwell. So I didn't choose him first based on the look of anyone's puppy. I was worried. I don't know. We'll flip around next time. All right. We have a mover and a seconder. Any further discussion? Hearing none. All those in favor? Those opposed? Motion is carried. Thank you. We are down to 7.3, which is first reading of land use bylaw amendments for LaHave River Development Agreement area text and signage.
Thank you, Mayor and Council. So this is a proposed concurrent amendment to the municipal planning strategy and the land use bylaw. Okay, great. And so the desired outcome is to enable a change of use within the existing zoning permissions within the LaHave River Development Agreement area. So that will help sort of reduce and streamline the development process for existing properties in that area. So the LaHave River Development Agreement Area Overlay Zone limits development within the underlying zoning, so it goes over top of the existing zoning, to require a development agreement to address issues related to flood risk and connectivity to the river, visual and your ability to access the river being the focal point of our downtown. It extends the full length of the river, as you can see from this excerpt from the zoning map. And we realized there was a bit of an issue as we're trying to undergo some negotiations looking to acquire some land, and we realized that there's we are causing a breach of a process if we remove something from that land, and so we need to try to remedy that situation if we were to do that, and so we want to make sure that this constraint can be addressed and allowing any of the existing permitted uses of the underlying zone. So to do that, we need to change policy and regulations to enable that change of use. Signage is also defined as development. So right now the trigger in the LaHave River Development Agreement area is about 50 meters squared plus signage would need to go through a development agreement even if you're just simply changing from one use to another use within an existing building. So this would prevent that, would enable it as an exemption. And so staff are recommending that you give first consideration to these concurrent amendments to exempt a change of use and associated signage from the requirement for development agreement within the LaHave River Development Agreement Area Overlay Zone, and to hold a public hearing on October 15th.
Right. And that public hearing will obviously be here. Any questions for our Director of Community Development? No? So again, this is this will go to a public hearing, so as questions come up, please direct them to the CAO, to staff. All right, is someone prepared to make a motion? Councillor Conklin.
Thank you. I move that Town Council for the Town of Bridgewater hereby conduct first reading of the proposed concurrent amendments to the Municipal Planning Strategy and Land Use Bylaw, NPS/LUB, as shown in Appendix A of Staff's Report, Document 24-156, And schedule a public hearing for Tuesday, October 15th, 2024 at 6 p.m. in council chambers of the Town Hall, 60 Pleasant Street, Bridgewater, Nova Scotia.
Thank you. Seconded by Councillor Caldwell. Further discussion? Hearing none. All those in favor? Those opposed? Motion is carried. Thank you. And this is probably a good time just to remind the public that all the documents, all the information that we have is on the town's website. So if you go down under council and look for council agendas and documents, every piece of information that we have is available there as well. As you know, we removed 7.4, so we are down to correspondence for action. Letter from Department of Municipal Affairs for the long-awaited code of conduct that certainly the NSFM has been working on for a number of years.
Good evening, Mayor and Council. This item comes to you from the Minister of Municipal Affairs, and in October, staff will be recommending to Council that you adopt the new code of conduct for councillors. This item is about how councillors are expected to conduct themselves in the execution of their duties. It's going to be implemented by the whole province within 60 days of the upcoming election. Our current code of conduct that is in place only shares one item, that's integrity, with the new 6 guiding principles, which also include collegiality, respect, professionalism, transparency, and responsibility. The framework aims to standardize expectations and processes, and you can find those in Annex A and Annex B and C respectively in your package. And the document package will come to Council for final approval on the 15th of October for adoption. Do you have any questions?
Questions? So, and we cannot take away from this, but we can add, any council can
That's
add.
right. This is a minimum proposed standard, and so you are flexible to augment, increase, or improve.
Yeah, so I do want to stress that if there are things that you feel are missing, we can enhance this. So again, please, through staff, we can send it right to Mark. So if you have things that you think are missing, let's put those on there so we can discuss it at that meeting.
Okay, thank you very much.
Everyone's good? Good. Okay, we are down to staff reports and recommendations. So amendments on policy 89 fees for curb cuts and environmental carts.
So there's notice was given at the last meeting with respects to amendments to our fees policy to adjust our fees. These fee adjustments are mainly to reflect actual cost or the fact that we haven't adjusted them in some time. So they're highlighted in the recommendation piece of the report for a quick reference what's being changed. So the administration charge is changing from $250 to $2,000, and that applies to sewer and water lateral connections, and it's a reflection of it's costing us more to handle those. Curb cuts are also increasing in terms of cost as well to reflect more actual cost. So we have those for asphalt, concrete curb and gutter, and concrete high back as well. And then the compost carts, we currently reference the MJSB pricing, but it should be changed to just actual cost because the pricing can vary. We can get them at a higher price or a lower price, and it just allows us the flexibility to change those. So those are the fee changes that are being recommended to council for consideration.
Okay, any questions from council on those? Okay, motion for Councilor Caldwell, thank you.
I move the Town Council for the Town of Bridgewater approve the amendments to Policy 89 fees as presented in document 24-140 with respect to administration charges for sewer and water lateral connections, curb cut charges, and environmental compost carts effective immediately.
Thank you. Seconded by Councilor Tanner. All those in favor? Those opposed? Motion is carried. And we're down to amendment to buyback agreement for Lot 53, Glen Allen.
I'm back. Thank you. So as you have it in your package, Lot 53, which was sold on Glen Allen, which was sold to Dwayne Richards and Acadia Equipment Rentals, originally had been issued as a purchase and sale agreement on July 5, 2021. At the time, the date of completion was scheduled to be June 29th, 2023. Mr. Richards had at the time requested an extension in May of 2023, asking for a one-year extension, which you did grant him that extension. And the new extension became June 29th of this year, 2024. Upon expiry of that agreement, part of our buyback agreement component was that we could exercise our right to begin taking back that parcel of property. But instead, Mr. Richards has stepped forward indicating that he had every intent and had already begun preparing the site for a residence, but needed a bit more time. So he has come forward asking for a 6.5-month extension, and that would take him to January 15th, 2025, indicating that he would be able to achieve and has provided background documentation to suggest he could, in fact, achieve substantial completion by that date, January 15th, which means an occupancy permit being issued. So I bring that back to you today to consider his request to extend his current buyback agreement, which would require us to reissue an amended agreement to enable him to proceed.
Questions or comments from council? We have discussed this before, but are there any questions? No. Someone prepared to put a motion on the floor? I'll go for your Deputy Mayor Vergier.
Yes, Your Worship. I'll move that Town Council for the Town of Bridgewater endorse the recommendation of staff and authorize the amendment of the current buyback agreement dated June 28th, 2023 with Acadia Equipment Rentals with respect to Lot 53, Glen Allen Drive, to extend the substantial completion date to January 15th, 2025 from the original date of June 29th, 2024 for a 6.5-month extension.
Thank you. Seconded by Councilor McDonald. Further discussion? Hearing none. All those in favor? Those opposed? Motion is carried. Thank you.
Thank you, Council.
Down to 10.3, Museum and Recreation rebranding. So I know that we've discussed this as well in the past, so Deputy CAO will run us through it.
Okay, council identified museum rebranding as a strategic priority for 2024-2025. Staff has looked at it, and we are therefore recommending the following accountability change and restructure to merge the museum and recreation services under a single manager who will report to the Director of Community Development. The current proposed structures are in your report, so you can take a look at the what exists now and what we have proposed. Benefits include clearer roles and responsibilities, optimization of facility use, strengthening community partnerships. Risks include volunteer engagement, external funding and sponsorships, and change management. We see success being measured through program participation, increased museum visitors, and volunteer numbers as well. And we are currently working with the Des Brisets Museum Commission, which will be dissolved, but the volunteers will be engaged in a different way. That is the plan for the museum rebranding and restructure. Mr. Mayor, any questions from you or council?
Questions from council on that? Has everyone driven by the museum lately and seen it? Like the refresh? It's starting to...
You should go inside.
Really?
There's a fantastic art exhibit in there. There's some really good art.
Yeah, I don't know if people watching haven't been in the museum in a while. It is not what it was probably when you went in even 5 or 6 years ago. Like it's quite a different space, and with the gallery space changes quite often. And so, like I said, if you went in last year, it doesn't look like that this year. So strongly encourage you to do that. But that's a bit of a sidetrack. So is there someone prepared to put a motion on the floor? Councillor McDonald, thank you.
I move the Town Council for the Town of Bridgewater approve the rebranding and focus of the museum with the merging of museum and recreation services and the accompanying organizational change, with the removal of the museum director position and the creation of a new manager of recreation and culture position who reports directly to the Director of Community Development.
Thank you. Seconded by Councillor Conklin. Further discussion? Hearing none. All those in favor? Those opposed? Motion is carried. Thank you. Down to Exit 12A, Development Plan. Everyone is getting their steps in today.
Right. Hello again, Mayor and Council. I have prepared a short presentation for this piece. You have all the documentation in your package, but we want to take you through this element. So specifically, this is in relation to Exit 12A and the incredible asset that we are able to access, the 125 acres, which creates a once-in-a-lifetime opportunity for our community. There are some elements within it that are causing us needing to take a step back and look at how we approach this and deal with a few issues. So the origin, certainly 12A has been a priority of this council, and we continue to work towards that. 12A interchange is expected to open this fall. We had indications that it would probably be end of October. Maybe that's still the case. We'll find out later this month in another update meeting with the province to determine if that's still achievable and what that implication is. We'll certainly report back to you once we know more as well. Staff have identified a number of deficiencies in the readiness of that interchange area, but more specifically related to our properties as we try to ready them for the sales and development process. There are several issues that have been identified, and they're outlined here for you, and again, as it is outlined in your package. But in order to prepare us to be able to move forward, we're looking for unbudgeted allocation of funds to allow us to look at the incinerator and related contaminated soil pile and acidic rock piles, central services and wastewater, as well as strategic development plan and marketing and sales plan components. Our recommendation that we're going to be bringing to you is to be able to address those items, but specifically looking for an unbudgeted amount of up to $165,000 to enable a $205,000 project to unfold. Specifically, this map in your package will illustrate for you, and I know we had you out to the site for a site visit, so this won't be new to you in particular, but in your package you had a map of the potential routes that Enterprise Drive, what we now call Enterprise Drive, might actually take in its approach going through the expanded new property that we'll have access to. There were 4 options for that road. In consultation with the province, we recommended our preference, which was at that time was labeled 1A. What has been used is not that route, and therefore this new road actually does cut down through, and it's established, it's a part of the process, and it's unfolding, but the road does find its way straight through our former incinerator site, and is surrounded by wetlands, a water course, and has some impediments when it comes to the easements from Nova Scotia Power. So on the map that you can see, we have a PID, a property identification number. The property that runs closest to the Highway 103 is the property that we're most concerned about at this time, because that is the site of the contaminated soil from the former incinerator operation. There's a chunk of property there that you'll see, and the conceptual lots that we had laid out for phase 1, the initial 44.5-ish acres that we're looking to develop, is directly impacted by this contaminated pile from the incineration site. Additionally, there is a second site which is at the top of that map, which is an acidic rock pile that's in a contained cell and currently has a cap that Department of Transportation had placed and had intended to, and we were aware of it. What we weren't aware of was maybe perhaps the height of that acidic rock pile, and it's directly off of the interchange as you're approaching from the Halifax area to the interchange. So just so you've got your bearings and where that location is. So the scope of work, what I've tried to outline for you here is, and I'll try to make it concise, we've identified the issue and what the issue is and the solution that we're coming to you with that we will solve and work through with the unbudgeted allocation. So in the case of the incinerator and contaminated soil pile, the acidic rock piles, the issue predominantly here is that these two areas are on our most highest and most valuable properties for us, most highest demand and valuable properties for us as we begin to do this project. They're along the highway, And so we need to be able to assess how can we minimize their impact and what do we need to do to address the contaminated soil. And just as a refresher as well, while the roadway came down through, as it was being built, it came down through the former contaminated area, the incinerator site. The soil, the material that needed to be removed to create the road bed was placed on our land. So while the province was creating, as they do, you need to excavate to create, but we have been left with this pile, and estimates have been quite substantial in looking at how to best address and deal with that, again, to ensure that we as a town and on behalf of our residents were able to generate the most highly productive use of that land to get our greatest return on investment. So that's been certainly a piece that we've been struggling with for the last bit, but we want to move past it to move on to property sales. The second part is the acidic rock pile. We don't know that we are going to be able to do anything with the height of that pile at this time, but we want the ability to assess this, address it, and if we can't directly impact it, what else might we be able to do in partnership with the province to minimize its impact? So our solution to these particular issues is to work specifically with Stantec. Stantec has been assisting us in our own capacity, assessing that location. They've done our master assessments of the location, but they have never been asked to take it to the next phase, which is we want to develop this land to sell for the highest and best use from the economic development capacity of our community. They're able to do this with us. They've got that scope, but it was never part of the original scope that they were looking at. So they can help us address that, but most importantly, we'll be getting them to assist us in determining how do we use the balance of the property to create lots that maybe actually incorporates the contaminated areas to our benefit, which hasn't been something we've been able to address. So we're suggesting and asking for your assistance and having them do that with us. The estimated cost is about $45,000 based on their quotes. The second issue is the capacity to provide wastewater servicing to Exit 12A. Council has indicated that you do not want to be out there selling land without having wastewater capacity. We have water, but it's our wastewater that is the issue. You've known about these. Mayor referenced the announcements that were forthcoming from the province and the federal government most recently to support us in our sorting. But we need to address what do we want to do? How can we best service the lands at Exit 12A so we can sell the property, the developers know what they've got, and what are the next steps? And there are two components to this solution, which is to work with Design Point specifically. And there's Plan A and Plan B that we want to run simultaneously. Plan A, we already have the infrastructure in the ground to support waste, water, and storm. What can we do to best use that existing infrastructure? And that's looking at the downstream assessments, that's looking at elements of redirection, offsetting, holding tanks. What is the possible solution that would enable us to actually tie into the existing system until we're up to full capacity to be able to run it through? So that's Plan A. Plan B is if Plan A can't work and we need to look at on-site servicing, what does that or should that look like, and come back with recommendations. In both cases, we'll want to be able to come back to you with, here's the solution that we found, and we want to proceed. We need to determine what that is, and that's part of the overarching challenges that we have across town. The estimated cost to undertake that work, Design Point, is $20,000. The final issue that we're working through is it's an issue. We've been up front with folks all along. As a town, we're not necessarily professional developers. We don't acquire properties and develop them to render them for commercial sites. So being able to tap into resources that support us and being able to ask the right questions, look at those layouts, etc., is important to us as we pull it all in. We've had the benefit of the lens of Margot Young over the past little bit to help facilitate us going through that process. We'd like to continue that, and we've included her in this piece to continue to provide that lens. Secondly, the scope of this project, as you all know, it does take on a life of its own. It's its own development piece. And internally, we're looking for a bit more support and resources to assist us in going forward to make this happen. And then, of course, we're moving towards the marketing and sales plan, and all of these pieces come together with an estimated cost of about 140. But wait, we know where we can get most of this. And that's where we wanted to take you. The financial implications of this is such that you'll see the summary of the cost estimates for each of those. It's 3 issues, but I've broken them out as 4 components. Revenue-wise, in our 2024 budget, we already have an allocation set aside of $42,500. We had back in April submitted and started the process with ACOA through their ICF program. In June, we submitted a full proposal, which we received green light. We're still waiting to hear whether or not it will be approved. It is our hope and expectation that it will be. But from that application, which is actually for a total of $112,500, $97,500 would come in under this request and help subsidize this piece of the project. And then we would have certainly a balance for sure of an unbudgeted $65,000 required to help us achieve the project. So in summary on that element, we need we're looking for up to $165,000 of unbudgeted financing to help us move forward, with the caveat that we're hopeful that ACOA will come forward and our investment will be reduced substantially to only being 65. And the final caveat in that one, and you'll see it in the final bullet point on the right-hand side of the screen, is specific to the Stantec work in assessing the contaminated soils and what to do with them. We'd like to approach the province and asking them if they'd like to assist us in finding a more valuable solution that works to our benefit rather than the pile sitting there. So that's where we're sitting, and our recommendation and request for direction from you actually is that you enable us to proceed with an unbudgeted allocation for this year of up to $165,000. But we'll minimize it if we can.
Thanks, Donna. Questions from council? I mean, we can't leave the stuff there, so we'll have to work with the, we talked about the strong partnership we have with the province, so
Yeah.
I'm not going to lose on any sleep over their willingness to come to the table and correct, as you noted in your presentation, that against our staff's wishes, they proceeded in this direction. So to me, it's kind of a, we told you not to do that, and you did it, so now you got to undo it. So, but in the meantime, you need some direction from council, and someone prepared to put that motion on the floor. Deputy Mayor Fragier.
Yes, thanks, Your Worship. I move that Town Council for the Town of Bridgewater direct staff to proceed immediately with the scope of work as outlined in document 24-155, providing approval of an unbudgeted allocation of up to $165,000 to enable the project cost of $205,000.
Thank you. Seconded by Councillor Caldwell. Further discussion? Hearing none. All those in favor? Those opposed? Motion is carried. Thank you. And we're now down to 10.5, expression of interest to purchase 3 parcels of land on Winburn Avenue for In Touch Homes.
I would like to declare a conflict of interest where my employer does work for In Touch Homes.
Perfect.
Okay.
Thank you.
Thanks.
We'll excuse the Deputy Mayor. Appreciate you doing that. And we'll turn it back over to Donna.
Thank you. Great. So we received an expression of interest from Karim George of In Touch Homes, specific to 3 properties on Winburn Avenue, which have been identified and been set aside as parkland. There are 3 lots. It's referenced as Winburn Avenue Park. He has, per the origin listed here, you certainly have, we have the capacity to entertain the sale and purchase of land. This expression of interest has come forward for those 3 properties as identified. I have a map a little bit later that I'll show you, and certainly this is outlined in your packages as well. The lots were dedicated parkland per the 2008 subdivision requirement, and we're seeking direction from council to determine if you wish to retain these 3 lots for future park development as they're zoned currently parkland, or consider divesting these subject lots, conducting the MGA Article 273 to process and consider public consultation to determine whether or not they wish council to pursue divesting themselves of these 3 lots for housing or to retain them. The recommendation that we're following here, you have a number of tools that you can certainly lean on. The recommendation that we're bringing forward is that you do commence a public consultation process as required by the MGA. Section 273, sections 13 and 14 declare these lots no longer required for open space and parkland, and thus entertain the expression of interest. Until such time as you've gone through that process, you're not able to entertain the sale of these 3 properties. And furthermore, that as part of the consultation process, the matter be referred to the Parks, Recreation and Culture Advisory Committee for consideration and feedback as per their terms of reference. So that's where we're heading with the recommendation. To back it up a bit, these you'll see in this map, the 3 properties are circled with the arrow pointing to them. It is the only parkland that's in that North Street area of town and has been reserved there since 2008. I know it's a lot of text on this slide, but I was trying to present okay, here you go, here are both sides, and if with your permission, I'll just take you through that. So the expression of interest from In Touch Homes, he's offering, as per his letter, he's offering $60,000 per lot, proposes to build single homes on each of the lots. He's constructed 18 homes in the Winburn area and has 5 more about to be completed. The assessed value of the homes are on average, based on property online, about $382,000. He has built and sold other homes in and around Bridgewater, so he's committed to our community from that perspective. And he currently has an application submitted for more than 50 units as part of a development off of Etna Street. Etna Avenue? Street. Thank you. The subject lots themselves, these are building lots and they are serviced. Although a downstream assessment would have to be completed to determine capacity within our wastewater to support the 3 houses on those lots. Lots in the area, on average, we do not have an appraisal done for those lots, but the lots in the area have sold for between $25,000 to nearly $47,000 each. The lots currently are owned by the town of Bridgewater, and as you know, housing is a priority, and we're working through a number of accelerator projects in an effort to create housing. At the same time, the Winburn Avenue Parkland, it encompasses the 3 lots. It's been designated parkland since 2008, and it's the only parkland in the North Street area. It's included with the open space plan adopted by council in 2021. The concept is for a natural neighborhood park. It's undeveloped currently, but it had been included in the capital budget plan last year, but due to unsuccessfully securing additional project monies to enable the project to go ahead, it had been pushed ahead while staff continued to work to find resources to support it. And per the MGA and approved by council in 2014, policy OS-2 indicates that council will work towards maintaining parkland for public use, etc. So that's kind of the background and how we arrived there. Should you wish to proceed in looking at a number of items, there are some financial and budget implications. Proceeding with the MGA 273 process, which is to consult with the public, to entertain their feedback about the use of the land. We'd have advertising and public consultation costs and staff resources that would need to be reallocated to this project. Additionally, should we proceed through and should the public consultation come back saying, yes, disposing of these properties or divesting of these properties, we would still need to go through a concurrent MGA and LUB amendments because it's park zoned, and so we need to move through the process. Legally, there'd be legal engagement at various stages and revenues from the sale of these properties, and in this particular case, the offer of $60,000 times 3 lots, those funds would be required per the MGA 273 to go back into parkland. So it would need to be reinvested. It can't sit within other coffers. So it's an opportunity to move funds that way. Or not an opportunity, but a requirement. So you've got a couple of options. Of course, you can thank Mr. George for his submission and appreciating what he does, but decline the offer, the expression of interest, and lean on your open space plan and keep it as normal. Or you could direct staff to move forward in looking at implementing the public consultation process associated with the MGA Section 273, moving through that, and at the same time invite us to consult with the Parks Rec and Culture Advisory Committee to ensure we collect their feedback and bring it back to you as well. And then we would be able to proceed from there. But at this point in time, you're not in a position to accept the offer, but you do have a trigger within the MGA to consider it if you wish. And that brings us back to a request for direction from you with the recommendation which we have brought forward to engage in the public consultation process.
And to be clear, if we go down the route of the public consultation, then the council at the end can decide still to not.
Correct.
Right, to not proceed and decline the offer.
It gives us the opportunity to seek public consultation around whether or not they want to proceed.
Discussion, questions from council on this? Councillor McDonald?
I think it's really important to protect green space, especially in an area where we don't have any for residents and employees in the area. But I would like to proceed to the public consultation process to get feedback from the community, knowing housing is a priority as well, and that the property hasn't been developed at this point. So I'm in support of moving forward and getting that feedback from the community.
Mm-hmm.
Thank you. Councillor Caldwell.
To me, this site has been earmarked for a park for many years. It was in the budget this year to start and create last year, 23, 24. Yeah, to start a park there. I think it's badly needed in the area around North Street. There is no park, a suitable park. And for those reasons, I'm not even interested in going down the route of exploring the offer to purchase. I think it should remain as planned as a park.
Other questions or comments, Councillor Coughlin?
I like the idea of possibly repurposing the $180,000 towards playground. I think there's only one playground on that side of the river, and it is quite an embarrassment, to say the least. So, I mean, this could be an opportunity to have something for the younger kids on the east side of the river. So, let's see what the public will say. I mean, we can always change our minds, right?
Okay. Councillor Thorburn?
I'm glad that it's really going to Recreation and Culture Advisory Committee, because we have a large committee, and certainly we'll have some feedback that will make your decision easier and maybe not so easy. But I like the consultation process because we can do the best job for the residents as possible. So that's why this is important.
Other thoughts? I know for me, I see both sides. We need housing and we need more parkland on that side of the river. I'm not convinced that location of that park is the best. It's certainly not accessible for people on North Street, because unless you live up around that area, you're never going to know the park. It's not unlike the one off of Miller, where I don't think most people would know that there's a park there. But if the money could be repurposed to have parkland in a more accessible central location in that neighborhood, I don't know. But again, the only way to find out is you have some public consultation with certainly the residents, especially in that community, and they may say this is the best place for a park ever, or they may say we'd rather have the housing here, take the money and see if you can make a park somewhere else, because we could use that money, correct me if I'm wrong, if if it's earmarked for park, we could use it to acquire land
Oh, yeah.
elsewhere
For park.
for park purposes.
Or any capital related to open space, so it could be land or equipment or.
Could it go into like splash pad
Yeah,
infrastructure?
it could go into infrastructure to support a park, yeah. But it can't go into salaries and that type of
Right,
stuff.
okay, yeah. So, yeah, Councillor Conklin.
Just, I guess, one other comment. The price, I'm just, a question out loud, like, should we have disclosed the offer price from Mr. George?
The offer price isn't the accepted price, so.
Yeah.
Yeah, at the end of the day, that negotiated price will remain confidential until the transaction's
Yeah.
completed, yeah.
But it was in public correspondence.
Yes,
Too.
yeah.
It was in
Yeah.
public
So
correspondence.
let's just say, yeah, for example, we go down the road and the public's fine with selling the parkland, and there might be another developer who would be interested in the 3 lots.
Yeah, so in that case, as I say, that the amount offered isn't the accepted amount, so the council could very well land on a very different price depending on what, you have to at least meet the market value test, right? So you'd have to be satisfied of that, and then you may want to negotiate. So it's just what's been offered, and usually at that point we will run the rest of it in camera.
Yeah.
But we can't entertain anything until we make.
Oh, yeah, I understand. I think.
It's the expression of interest that has triggered the activity, not the acceptance of that offer.
Yeah.
Councillor Tanner.
Don, refresh my memory, does the town own any land within that that square quadrant, Aberdeen to the, I've lost my bearings here, northwest section? Town own any land within that?
Like up towards the town line, you mean?
Yeah.
No.
Nothing, it's all private? Yeah, okay.
So there may not be many options, and that would be something that council would have to consider as well, if that was one of the things, for sure. Yeah. Other comments? Someone prepared to put a motion on the floor? Councillor Thorburn, thank you.
I would move that town council of the town of Bridgewater direct staff to commence a public consultation process required by the Municipal Government Act, Section 273, subsections 13 and 14, to declare these lots no longer required for open space parkland, and thus entertain the expression of interest from In Touch Homes to acquire PIDs 606-59364, 6005-0184, and 6005-0176. And further, that as part of the consultation process, this matter be referred to Parks, Recreation, and Cultural Advisory Committee for consideration and feedback.
Thank you. Seconded by Councillor Conklin. Further discussion? Hearing none. All those in favor? Those opposed? Motion is carried. Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you, everyone, for your feedback and comments. We'll welcome the Deputy Mayor back and go down to item 11.1, Disaster Mitigation Adaptation Fund Agreement. Surprise, we got money from the federal government, as was announced a couple weeks ago, and so this is what that's about.
So this supports the 2018 sanitary stormwater master plan work that council had completed by Design Point, and that study identified deficiencies within our wastewater system. In particular, it was the purpose was to look at how we could reduce overflows, or what needed to be done to reduce overflows that would be related to development, which is a requirement by the Nova Scotia Department of Environment and the Canadian Council of Ministers of the Environment, CCME is what we refer to that as. So no new development can create overflows, and that would be the requirement. So the study looked at what could be done there and came up with a number of recommendations, which led council to directing staff in 2021 to make application under the Infrastructure Canada's Disaster Mitigation and Adaptation Fund, which we did. And that was proposed infrastructure upgrades that would be completed over a 10-year horizon. And in August of 2022, we received confirmation that we were awarded that funding. So we've been tracking those costs since then, and you'll have seen that in our capital plan. So now that the announcement has been made, the next step for us is to look at the cost share agreement. So the cost share agreement is attached to the report that staff has submitted, prepared by Emily. So the work that will be done is to upgrade some critical infrastructure that we have. So 6 pump stations, 4 major operating systems at the wastewater treatment plant, and 11 storm separation projects. And again, this is all about how we reduce stormwater within our system to make us more adaptable and responsive to climate change, and to be able to handle those increased rainfall events and those types of things. So the fund is really about climate change adaptation, and that's what this does. The amount of the project, as you'll see in our 10-year capital plan, is $69.4 million. Of this cost share agreement funds $20,411,040. So that is the federal contribution. There is going to be a provincial contribution to this as well, as was part of the announcement, and that cost share agreement will come separately, and that's for $22.7 million. So the town's contribution over the 10 years is $26.2 million. So a significant contribution for the balance of the cost. Some things to recognize with this project are the outcomes are noted, what will be achieved, and we have to adhere to those. Any budget overages, so if we go to tender and things come in over, it's ours. The funding amounts from the federal government and provincial government are fixed. It's the town that would have to recover that. We have gone back and done some recent adjustments to our project estimated cost to try to offset some of that cost. But again, that is definitely something that I think council needs to be aware of, is that any overages would be picked up by the town, not the funding partners. It also, the contribution agreement also outlines some of the eligible cost and what's ineligible. And the importance to note there is that labor, your own source labor, is one that is limited in terms of being able to use. So if we have a I&I project where we want to replace a small section of pipe as part of the project, typically those are things we may have done with our own labor. And in this particular case, these types of funding programs do not enable you to use your own labor unless there were no other bids received. So you actually have to bid the work. So we have to bid the work, and then we have to get permission to use our labor. So you may see a few changes in how we do some of our capital in relation to this, and that's because of that requirement. So we have to bid and prove that we are either the only bid or the cheapest. So we have to compete. And so those are kind of the main things within the agreement. And as I said, the schedules will outline what we're going to do, the length of pipe, how much we're going to reduce in terms of overflows and those types of things. But it's a 10-year project. Changes to it that are significant in scope, we have to go back and get permission to do. Otherwise, we have the project defined and we can move around within it as long as we meet the outcomes. So the recommendation is that council authorize the execution of the cost share agreement under the Disaster Mitigation and Adaptation Fund.
Questions on that? Councilor Conklin?
Okay, so we're looking at a total project cost estimated, I guess, for, 68, 69 million?
69.
Okay, so any idea what this would have cost us 5 years ago?
Less.
Yes.
Going out on a limb.
I think that 5 years, there's a lot that
Like
changed in
pre-COVID,
2020. And definitely we saw some of our estimates come in like 200% over estimate budget. So there's a lot of variables that affect that, like contractors, availability, what projects, say, the provincial government or the federal government have on the go, because it is a small community when it comes to contractors for these scale of projects. And if the market's saturated with projects, it affects cost. But yes, I would suggest that it probably was quite a bit lower 5 years ago.
So the real question is it lower today or closer than it would have been 3 years ago when things were really getting out of hand? Where we had things, whatever, we had one, it was, what is this, like 700% over
Yeah.
budget. So things seem to have settled a little bit. So I don't know. It's more.
There's a 30% contingency in here. So that was, I remember when we made the application, that was one of our concerns, is that seemed to be an awfully high number, right? So you have a contingency, and then you had to build a contingency. So when you get, like, when you prepare estimates, you always put a contingency in it. And then on top of that, we had to put another contingency in the budget for, to, I guess, reflect the fact that it is a 10-year program. But we found that even with that, some of our estimates were way off the mark. And about a year ago, staff went in, a little over a year ago, when our previous environmental services manager was here, Audrey. She did a number of adjustments to the figures to reflect some of the experiences we were having with our tender results. So, but it's hard to predict what 10 years looks like, and that's why that, theoretically, that's why that contingency is there.
But as I was saying, like, if this is years in the making, and so I did, and I think you did too, we had multiple conversations with deputy ministers and explained, like, part of the issue is when these programs are so cumbersome to start, it takes a long time to get applications in. So you're already, costs don't go down, right? So already costs are going up. Then you have forever, it seems, to wait for an approval. So then costs continue to go up. And then it can take, in some cases, a year or longer to actually get to where it's signed. Now, in some cases, they'll let you do retroactive costs, and in some cases, they don't. But if you had a $5 million project and you got funding for $2.5 million, that $2.5 million now may be worth $500,000 with inflation. So these are some of the challenges that, you know, we're not the only municipality that faces that. But
no, and I think it's important to note that when we originally made the application, we were just making it under DMAP, so just federal, for 40% of the project cost. Since then, the province has provided funding of $22 million. So it helps offset some of that risk, because before we were going it alone, really, was 60% of the project cost, and now we've got that $22 million from provincial funding, which is the same project, same scope. We just had that inserted, which really helps offset some of the risk that we were exposed to.
Yeah, the province worked hard to come to the table on that one. So, but yeah, it's a long way to say. It's more now. Other questions, Councillor Thorburn?
Tammy, I'm sure we have a plan and a priority list that we're going to do, right? But if something comes up, can we adapt and change and move?
So as long as the project doesn't change. So the project's a 10-year project, right? So at the end of 10 years, we will have done all of these things.
Right.
So we're able to move within the years as circumstances arise, as long as we do what we said we do over that 10-year period.
So we do have some flexibility on how we attack the issues that the town's going to face in the next 10 years. Okay.
As long as it's within that project.
Right.
So if there's new things that come up that's not within that project, we budget that outside of this.
Sure. No, I just meant within the process. Okay, great, thanks.
And just a reminder that this is long-term. I know I've had a couple of people already call to say, okay, so now can my project move ahead? Well,
10 years.
Yeah, it's going to take some time. We can't, we're physically changing pipes in the ground, so it takes some while, but we're now going to be further ahead than we were before we had this funding and the provincial funding, so.
Okay.
Any more questions? Is someone prepared to make a motion? Councillor Tanner?
I move the town council for the town of Bridgewater authorize the execution of the Federal Disaster Mitigation and Adaptation Fund, DMAF, contribution agreement for funding of the town's 10-year wastewater upgrade program, reflecting a total federal contribution of $20,411,040.
Thank you. Seconded by Deputy Mayor Frazier. All those in favor? Those opposed? Motion is carried. Gotta make sure we get that $40. if they just round it down and we don't get that money, are they they're in violation, right?
Yes, that's right. We're gonna round up.
11.2, Housing Accelerator Fund Application Round 2. We're going to get this one.
Okay, thank you, Mayor and Council. So I provided you with a brief report around the opportunity in front of us, which is that the Housing Accelerator Fund, for which our application last fall was unsuccessful, has opened up for round 2 of applications only to those who were unsuccessful in the first round. So for those of us who did not receive funding, we have a new opportunity. And so the purpose tonight is to receive direction on whether we should be applying to this second round of Housing Accelerator Fund. And the reason is, in addition to only being open to those who've already made an application, an unsuccessful one, they have provided a list of the top 10 best practices for accelerating housing and the 5 housing action initiatives, action plan initiatives, must come from those top 10. So we have a list of 10 to choose from. And similar to the first one, the number or the amount of grant that we would be eligible for is determined by a formula based on what we think is possible to incent. So we have changed our process from what we went all out in last year's application and were unsuccessful. We had pitched that we would try to incent nearly 200 units. So we're proposing that we bring that down to about 100 units, approximately $1.88 million of potential grant money. And that is more in line with the size of other small community grants that were provided to other communities across Canada, but also we looked at what was provided to other municipalities in Nova Scotia. So staff looked at what the top 10 best practice from CMHC were, and then assessed 5 for consideration by council. So to develop a grant program for affordable housing, to adopt pre-approved building plans. So CMHC, there's been a lot in the news about how they're going to create a housing catalog of pre-approved plans. So to look at adopting something like that. To look at process efficiencies, e-permitting, and the regional inspection services. That one we did have in our first application last year, so that's just a simple, the same piece that we're doing already. You're allowed to have 2 from your first application in your second. To make municipally owned land available for housing, and to end exclusionary zoning. So that would be to revisit the single unit residential zone that we do currently have. And again, I'm using their wording from their best practice. We would, of course, adopt it and adapt it in a manner that aligns to Bridgewater, not wholesale what CMHC is proposing. So beyond that, once you do the work, I guess the work to put in the winning conditions in place was the wording that was used with me when I was talking to CMHC. So once you put those programs in place, then any of the remaining funding that you've received can be used for other eligible expenses. So the ones that we were looking at that could be considered would be a stormwater disconnection program for homeowners. So trying to pilot that and incent that private investment to separate storm from wastewater in areas where it's known to be combined, that follows along with all of the public investment that we're doing in the street. To focus in on some of our wastewater modeling and offsetting program development work that we are looking at right now. It could also be used towards housing related infrastructure projects. That could actually be a pipe in the ground somewhere, or community related infrastructure projects such as park development like Generations Active Park or something like that. The funding, again, because it's very formula based, it is done in 4 equal disbursements: first upon signing of the contribution agreement, second after the first year, third after the second year, and then fourth upon completion. And it's at that 4th disbursement, or the 3rd disbursement rather, that they look at, are you incenting the units that you said you would? Are you in line to receive your full grant? and they might adjust it at that point. So with the pared down action plan, we are suggesting that we would need at least one FTE within the Community Development Department to lead the policy and program development work required to undertake those 5 initiatives in the Housing Action Plan. And then beyond that, plus some program money for consultants, for engagement, communications, et cetera, that we need to undertake to do that work, then the remaining, whatever might remain of such a grant would then be used for some of those other eligible expenses. So that's that. So the options are to apply or not to apply. And we're recommending that we do throw our name in the hat.
Staff have done a lot of work to get us ready for this. So, yeah. Any questions from council?
Just on the grant disbursement piece, so is a portion of that 2.6, does a set portion of the 2.6 have to go to grant disbursements, or you can mix it up within that grouping any way you want? Does that make sense?
Yeah, for the affordable housing grant program, we would set that. So the way, as I understand it, we create the grant program, and a portion of that money can be used for grants.
Yes.
And
but there's not a set, like 50%
there's not a set amount. So
okay.
Under the financial section of the report, when I'm talking about grant disbursements, I'm talking about when we receive the grant money.
Okay.
So $3.188 million divided in 4 equal installments. They give you 1 quarter up front.
Okay.
And then they give you 2 more, and then assess if you've completed what you said you were going to do. Did we incent 100 housing units over and above what we would have based on our average amount of housing that we've had over the past 5 years, which is 89 new dwelling units per year. So over and above that, have we done an additional 100 in a 3-year period? And if so, then they would give us the last installment. But for a grant program, all that program and policy work would have to come to council for approval. This is just, do we apply? And then it would need to come back again for the contribution agreement, should we be selected in the second round.
Okay. And if I may, and then tying into the Generations Active Park, do we have to be specific?
No, we don't.
Park?
No, I put that as an example. That's why I just have, no, we don't have to specifically.
So we can say it's tying into park green space.
I'm just saying, maybe give us a little more flexibility for other things, maybe. Okay.
I believe so. I can confirm that. I have a meeting with CMHC tomorrow to find out how specific they want to be. They do, in the application, ask what in your capital plans would you spend money on? And Generations Active Park is in our capital plan, but I don't think we're beholden to that specific project so long as it is an eligible expenditure per the grant and per our own budget.
Other questions? Someone prepared to make a motion? Councilor Cochran, thank you.
I move that Town Council for the Town of Bridgewater approve in principle the Housing Action Plan initiatives as outlined in document number 23-110A and direct staff to apply for Housing Accelerator Fund by September 13th, 2024.
Seconded by Councilor McDonald. Further discussion? Hearing none. All those in favor? Those opposed? Motion is carried. Thank you. Thank you for that. Down to the ARC's 60th anniversary celebration, and clarity on, I know that when we had the presentation, there was a little bit of confusion on what the ask was, so I think we have the clarity now.
I think we have the clarity, and the ask has been reduced from what was in their original request. So essentially, for their event, for their 60th anniversary, they're asking for a street closure, which has a estimated cost of up to $2,000. For the town to promote via our social media, Explore Bridgewater, and it's in-kind cost, so that'd be around $200. And they want to borrow games and activities. That's not a problem. Equipment, they would like to look at the string lights, and of course there's a cost to deliver those, unpack them, and that. So we anticipate that the total cost of the request is $2,400, with a big piece of that being the street closure.
Questions, CEO, on that? We heard the presentation from the ARC. Someone prepared to make a motion? Councillor Caldwell.
I move the town council for the town of Bridgewater endorse the recommendation of staff and approve the in-kind request from the ARC in support of their 60th anniversary celebration scheduled for September 28, 2024, as contained in document 24-133A at a cost of approximately $2,400.
Thank you. Seconded by Councillor Tanner. Further discussion? Hearing none. All those in favor? Those opposed? The motion is carried. We are down to new business, and just that the Lunenburg County Senior Safety Coordinator report for August is in there, and just for the public's knowledge, there's a Fall Senior Safety Academy from September 20th to October 25th. It's Friday afternoons from 1 to 3:30. It's at the Bridgewater Fire Hall, and you can reach out to the Lunenburg County Senior Safety Program to register. And they also are still looking for used iPhones or smartphones. So they have someone who will repair them, and then they'll disperse them to seniors who don't really have a way right now to stay connected. So you can reach out to the Lunenburg County United Way or the Senior Safety Coordinator Office for more information. And with that, we do not have an in-camera meeting. We have our next discussion session. We do have a discussion session on the 16th next week. So without further ado, I have a motion to adjourn, please. Deputy Mayor Fisher, second by Councillor Tanner. We are adjourned. Thank you.